Edinburgh Castle, Scotland's fortress of ghosts and battles. Perched high atop Castle Rock, dominating the skyline of the Scottish capital, Edinburgh Castle has stood as a symbol of power and defence for over a millennium. Its towering walls and formidable presence have witnessed some of the most dramatic and violent moments in Scotland's history, from bloody battles to royal intrigue. Today, Edinburgh Castle is one of the most famous tourist attractions in Scotland, drawing visitors from around the world to explore its ancient halls and uncover its storied past. But the castle's long and often brutal history has also left behind a darker legacy, a legacy of hauntings, ghostly apparitions, and unexplained phenomena that have earned it the title of one of the most haunted places in Scotland. Over the centuries, countless people have lived, fought, and died within Edinburgh Castle's stone walls. From soldiers and prisoners of war to royals and commoners, many lives were lost during the castle's turbulent history. Some of these spirits, it is believed, never left the fortress, and their restless souls continue to haunt its ancient corridors, stairways, and dungeons to this day. Visitors, staff, and paranormal investigators have reported numerous ghostly encounters, including sightings of apparitions, disembodied voices, and inexplicable sounds that seem to echo from the past. ###A fortress of blood and battle. Edinburgh Castle's origins date back to at least the 12th century, though evidence suggests that the site has been used as a defensive stronghold since prehistoric times. The castle has played a pivotal role in Scotland's history, serving as both a royal residence and a military fortress. Its strategic position atop an extinct volcanic rock made it nearly impregnable, but it also made it the focus of numerous sieges and battles throughout the centuries. From the wars of Scottish independence to the Jacobite uprisings, Edinburgh Castle has been the site of countless conflicts, each leaving its mark on the fortress. The castle's long history of warfare, bloodshed, and death has given rise to a wealth of ghost stories, many of which are tied to the tragic events that unfolded within its walls. It is said that the spirits of soldiers, prisoners, and even royals still linger, their restless souls unable to move on from the place where they met their untimely end. Some of the castle's most famous ghosts are directly linked to the battles and sieges that once shook its mighty walls. ###The ghost of the drummer boy. One of the most famous ghostly apparitions at Edinburgh Castle is the phantom drummer boy, whose haunting presence is said to signal impending danger or war. The origins of the drummer boy's ghost date back to the 17th century, when the boy was discovered brutally murdered inside the castle. He had been beheaded, and no one knew his identity or the circumstances of his death. Since then, visitors and staff have reported hearing the faint but unmistakable sound of a drum beating through the corridors of the castle, particularly on stormy nights. The ghostly drumming is often accompanied by the apparition of a young boy, dressed in old military uniform, marching through the castle's grounds with a solemn, sorrowful expression. Some say the boy's spirit is still guarding the castle, forever trapped in his duty as a wartime messenger, warning of danger from beyond the grave. ###The ghostly piper. Another famous haunting involves the phantom piper, whose eerie music can sometimes be heard echoing through the stone halls and underground tunnels of the castle. The legend of the piper dates back centuries to a time when a hidden tunnel was discovered beneath the castle, leading from the fortress to the Royal Mile. According to the story, a piper was sent into the tunnel to explore it, playing his bagpipes as he walked so that those above ground could track his progress. However, the sound of the pipes suddenly stopped, and the piper was never seen again. Despite extensive searches, no trace of him was found. To this day, his ghostly bagpipes can still be heard, faintly playing beneath the castle, as though the lost piper is still wandering the dark tunnels, unable to find his way out. ###The ghosts of the dungeons. Edinburgh Castle's dungeons are another area rife with paranormal activity. The castle was used as a prison for hundreds of years, housing everyone from political prisoners to captured soldiers from foreign wars. The conditions in the dungeons were notoriously harsh, and many prisoners died from starvation, disease, or execution. Some of the most infamous prisoners were held during the Napoleonic Wars, and it is said that their spirits still haunt the dark, claustrophobic cells where they spent their final days. Visitors to the dungeons have reported hearing disembodied voices, cries for help, and even the sound of clanking chains. Some have experienced the sensation of being touched by invisible hands, while others have seen shadowy figures moving through the dimly lit corridors. One particularly chilling encounter involved a visitor who claimed to feel a hand grasp her arm, pulling her toward one of the cells, even though no one else was there. #### The spirit of Lady Janet Douglas. Among the many ghost stories associated with Edinburgh Castle, one of the most tragic involves the spirit of Lady Janet Douglas of Glamis. Lady Janet was a noblewoman accused of witchcraft during the reign of King James V. Although the charges were widely believed to be false, she was imprisoned in the castle and later burned at the stake in 1537. Her execution was one of the most infamous in Scottish history, and her spirit is said to still haunt Crown Square, the site of her death. Visitors have reported seeing the apparition of a woman in a long gown, her face twisted in anguish, wandering through the square as if reliving the moments leading up to her execution. Others have heard the faint cries of a woman, believed to be Lady Janet, echoing through the walls of the castle. #### The Headless Soldier. Another common ghostly figure seen at Edinburgh Castle is the Headless Soldier, a spirit that is believed to be the remnant of a soldier who was decapitated during one of the many sieges on the castle. Witnesses have reported seeing the headless figure wandering through the battlements and along the walls, dressed in full military uniform, as though searching for something, or someone, that he has lost. The sight of the headless apparition has left many visitors with a deep sense of unease, and the soldier is often accompanied by the cold gust of wind that signals the presence of the supernatural. #### The Grey Lady. The Grey Lady is another well-known ghost that haunts the halls of Edinburgh Castle. She is believed to be the spirit of a servant who once worked in the castle and died of the plague during one of the many outbreaks that ravaged Edinburgh in the 1600s. The Grey Lady has been seen moving through the castle's corridors, her ghostly form shrouded in a grey cloak or veil. Some visitors have felt a cold, oppressive feeling when she is near, as though her spirit is weighed down by the sorrow and suffering she endured in life. Others have seen her standing silently in the castle's dark corners, her pale face barely visible beneath her veil before she vanishes into the shadows. #### The Haunting of Mary, Queen of Scots. Edinburgh Castle was also home to Mary, Queen of Scots, one of Scotland's most famous and tragic monarchs. It was here, in 1566, that she gave birth to her son, James VI of Scotland and I of England, who would go on to unite the crowns of Scotland and England. Although Mary spent much of her life embroiled in political intrigue and eventually met a tragic end, executed in 1587, her connection to Edinburgh Castle remains strong. Some say that the spirit of Mary herself has been seen wandering the halls of the castle, particularly near the royal apartments, where she once lived. Her ghost is often described as a regal figure, dressed in elaborate clothing, who appears briefly before disappearing into thin air. #### The castle's paranormal legacy. In addition to these specific spirits, Edinburgh Castle is believed to be a general hotspot for paranormal activity. The entire castle complex, from the Great Hall to the Gatehouse, is said to be alive with ghostly energy, much of it tied to the countless battles and sieges that took place there over the centuries. Cold spots, disembodied footsteps, and strange lights are commonly reported, and many visitors have experienced the eerie sensation of being watched as they move through the castle's ancient rooms and passageways. In 2001, a major paranormal investigation was conducted at Edinburgh Castle as part of the UK's largest ever scientific ghost study. The investigation involved over 200 volunteers who spent time in the castle's most haunted locations, including the dungeons, the Great Hall, and the tunnels beneath the castle. During the study, many participants reported paranormal experiences, including sightings of shadowy figures, sudden temperature drops, and unexplained sounds. Some even claimed to feel unseen hands touching them or pulling at their clothes. The results of the investigation further solidified Edinburgh Castle's reputation as one of the most haunted places in the world. #### A fortress where history and haunting collide. Today, Edinburgh Castle stands as both a symbol of Scotland's rich history and a place where the past refuses to rest. Visitors from around the world come to explore its halls, learn about its history, and perhaps encounter one of the many spirits said to haunt the fortress. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there is no denying that Edinburgh Castle has an atmosphere unlike any other, a place where the weight of history and the echoes of the past still linger in the air. For those who dare, ghost tours are available, allowing visitors to explore the castle's most haunted locations after dark. With its towering battlements, shadowy corridors, and chilling ghost stories, Edinburgh Castle is a place where the lines between the living and the dead blur, and where the spirits of the past seem forever bound to the place where their stories unfolded.